Hey guys, quick video tonight. Just had a kind of interesting idea. We love analogies on this channel. And I do in my life. I find that analogies are sort of the supreme method of communication because there's a lot of things that we try to describe more like technically and logically, and there is understanding to be had, but it's when we sort of convert that logic into a more real life experience that it resonates more and clicks more easily for people. An analogy that I thought of today is sort of this idea of maintaining your narratives. Think of your storyline and then think of reality as these two opposing forces. Reality being the truth and this narrative being, a lie is sort of a strong word, but I rather say less true, which, truth is truth. How can something be less true? There's a difference between, sorry, I got to put on my badge here. There's two types of truth. There's the objective truth, and then there's the relative truth. So truth that is only relative to me. Relative, you can use the actual word relative, like in terms, like a family member, as a good example for this. Like your relatives are only, like your grandma is only your grandma relative to you. So it wouldn't be true for someone else to say that that's your grandma. She is a grandma, but she's your grandma relative to you. So it's things can be, like another great example I just had come up in a recent class I'm taking is if you saw sort of like the front facing view of a cylinder, you'd be looking at, if you didn't have the depth perception, it would just look like a rectangle, right? And then if you looked at it from directly above, it would look like a circle. So if one person calls it a circle and the other person calls it a rectangle, they're both technically right in a sense, but the truest, most objective reality is that shape is actually a cylinder when you have the full picture. So these two differing realities, one being true, one being a more relative truth. Think of these as opposing, or as opponents on a chessboard, okay? So chess is an interesting game because it is ever-changing until someone wins. The board and the puzzle that you're trying to solve is in constant movement. And you have to constantly adjust your position to match the position of the opponent. Or vice versa, you're making moves that then have to be, compensated, and they have to respond according to what you did. But in this case, if you're familiar with chess, the white, whoever has the white pieces goes first, and then black goes after that. And in this example, we are the black side. We're going second. We're on the defensive. So reality is taking shape before us. And then we are trying to sort of fit our narrative in a way that can properly sort of defend against it a lot of the time. Because reality, in its most objective form, can be threatening to our narratives, and threatening to our lives as well if we find ourselves in a dangerous circumstance. But our narratives are constantly being tested and sort of turned upside down, and needing to be rebuilt, sort of. So what the hard part is that if you don't recognize this relationship, that there's this game happening, your point of view is that of those black chess pieces. You are the pawn being moved. You are you are each piece taking action after action after action, and you are in that first person point of view against reality. But there's this realization that you have where your narrative, eventually you just start to realize, like, am I going to have to continue to adjust and twist and manipulate not only my understanding of reality, but my understanding of myself? Will this be constant maintenance to uphold my version of the story here, my narrative? Eventually, and what I hope happens for all of you, is that reality falls apart, or that narrative falls apart, and all that's left is your perception of reality in a much more honest, coming from a much more honest place than this self-serving narrative that often tells us, the future is bright. And I'm not saying the future is not bright, but are we being honest when we say these things? Or are we telling ourselves the future is bright so that we don't recognize and acknowledge and confront harsh realities, harsh circumstances that exist in our objective reality? So, there is an understanding that will develop where eventually you're looking at this chessboard from a separate point of view, and there's no conflict anymore. You're kind of more at one with life as it comes. And that's not to say that life just is nothing but bliss, but you have a more welcoming attitude toward an objective reality, good or bad. You're willing to accept it as it is. And it's when you can look at your reality as honestly as possible, with all the pain and pleasure involved, and you can find your peace in that place. Not in your little fortress that you've built, or your suit of armor that you hide beneath, but your naked self and your honest reality, or your honest assessment of reality, and living from that place and being at peace. That is true freedom, both freedom of mind and just a sort of transcending that habitual pattern of watching reality change form in front of us, and then just trying to then adjust our little story to meet the ever-changing battlefield or board game happening before our eyes. Hope that made sense for you guys. Hope you can relate. And please let me know if you do. I love hearing from you guys. I think of you as friends, as very powerful and bright people. I really appreciate anyone who takes part in this channel. Love you guys so much, and have a beautiful rest of your night. Take care.